I recently finished Unbeatable, the rhythm adventure game developed by D-Cell Games, but calling it just a rhythm game doesn't feel right. Very much in the same way that explaining the game as the game where music is illegal and you do crime feels reductive to the people who have already played it. Mechanically, it's nothing groundbreaking. It's a rhythm game where you hit notes that come at you, either left and right or sometimes up and down. Sometimes you explore a mostly vapid overworld to do little quests that don't contribute that much to the overall story. Stylistically, the game is gorgeous. Unbeatable is filled with some beautiful world design, and the characters feel unique. The cutscenes feel like something you'd see out of a Studio Trigger anime. On a technical level, the game is a bit of a coin toss. Loading screens taking forever, character models appearing where they shouldn't, sometimes in scenes that are supposed to carry lots of emotional weight. But despite all of that, I am still here, asking you to give this game a chance. Unbeatable isn't perfect. Even its strongest defenders will say that much. But if you're able to look past the rough edges, some which feel intentional, you get the virtual embodiment of DIY. The manifestation of making art for the sake of making art, or how the game puts it, painting with dirt.
It's like restoring a painting. You have to be careful because you can scrape paint off alongside the dirt. And I think we do a little bit of our painting with dirt.
So, let's start at the beginning. What is Unbeatable even about? Well, to explain the plot of Unbeatable, I'd have to at least partially spoil it. That's because it's one of those games where you're just kind of thrown into the thick of it, and the elements surrounding the plot start to unravel the more time you spend talking with characters and living in the world. It's also one of those games that certain plot elements are left up for interpretation, so trying not to spoil everything, here's what I got from it. You play as Beatrice, or Beat for short, a 21-year-old struggling to get by with her music career as her mother battles with deadly illness. After being kicked from her band and being fired from her job at a Chinese restaurant, Bee tries to run away. At the same time, in what I imagine is either a dream or alternate dimension, a 12-year-old named Quaver struggles with the grief left by her dead mother. Beat is summoned into this world, and it's a world where music has become illegal after a tragedy known as the Zero Moment summons the Silence. These are little creatures that are attracted to music like moths to a flame. If I had to guess on which theory I think is most likely, I'd go with the alternate dimension one, as there's certain pieces of dialogue that suggest certain real-world locations aren't present in Quaver's world. Beat spends most of the game helping Quaver come to terms with the passing of her mother, and this comes through indulging her in her attempt to get a band going, just like her mother's. In this journey, you're accompanied by two prodigy twins, Treble and Clef, who are no strangers to breaking the law, and because of this, have some hesitancy about being caught up in something that will only make their lives more difficult. Hijinks ensue as this band of misfits attempt to bring music back to this drab world. I think this was a long way of saying that Unbeatable is technically an isekai. Now that you have a general understanding of the story, I can get into what makes Unbeatable such a fascinating game. And that is the message the game is trying to convey, and how the game's hiccups work into that message. Because at its core, Unbeatable is more than an isekai. It's a game about making art that doesn't have to be perfect. One of the more profound conversations you have with a character is with Treble, as he discusses how sometimes, when it comes to making art, you gotta work with what you got, even if it isn't able to make perfection.
The new mixes are awful.
Really? Dude.
I didn't want to say anything in front of the rest of them when everyone seemed like they loved it, and especially not when it would probably just come off like I'm bummed they're not using my mix. But like, come to me, and I really mean this honestly, it feels like the soul is missing from the thing. I'm not some weird lo-fi purist.
I don't think you can be pure and a lo-fi.
Whatever. But it really is too clean. There's like, this energy is gone from it. You know, some messiness is good. It's like restoring a painting. You have to be careful because you can scrape paint off alongside the dirt. And I think we do a little bit of our painting with dirt.
It's also a game about making stuff with meaning, whether that meaning comes from the art that you're making, or who you're making it with. Take a look at the non-rhythm game sections of Unbeatable. Perhaps too long, especially in earlier portions of the game, these sections allow you plenty of time to bond with side characters, making their journey and their stories that much more impactful. The open world sections of the game can feel like a drag too, partially because the rhythm sections are so damn good and stylish, but also because they force you to slow down and interact with the world, interact with the community around you. And Unbeatable has lots to say about community, what goes into creating one, and how certain institutions destroy our sense of community to make it easier to control us. On the topic of establishment, it would be a crime to not touch on just how anti-establishment Unbeatable is. It's not just pro-art, but also very anti-cop. And it's not exactly subtle about it. It doesn't start off subtle and somehow ends up even more direct with the stances on police, fascism, and the prison industrial complex by the end of the game.
You treat me like a criminal, so why shouldn't I treat you like you're a cop?
Whether you agree with its punk stances or not, a game having such a clear and meaningful voice is worthy of praise. It only adds that much more meaning to the game. If nothing else, Unbeatable has purpose. The developers give it a reason to exist, other than just make a profit. The dialogue of the game might be the biggest double-edged sword of them all for me. At its peak, you get amazingly profound conversations about trauma and living with it, living past it, the beauty and process of creating, of making art, and even commentary on the struggles of what it takes to leave the police force. But at its valleys, you get overdone Tumblr-esque jokes and characters talking over each other so much that the game struggles to properly finish voice lines as you try to move through conversations as quickly as possible. Not every issue with Unbeatable has a positive spin to it. Technical issues are still technical issues. Episode 2 in particular drags. Episode 1 has a good 25-ish minutes where there is no rhythm game gameplay. Unbeatable has a rough start, but with the message of being heard and having a voice resonate as well had you not seen the characters have to go without their voices, with the commentary on policing work, had the player not endured an episode bloated by an irritatingly long amount of time stuck in prison, doing the same task with no real purpose? I don't know. It very well could have. But what I do know is that Unbeatable, as it currently stands, is probably one of my favorite games that I've played in the past couple of years, despite being a bit of a mess. Thanks for watching.